This is Anti-Paper Business Club by OpusCapita. I'm Hanna, that's me right there, and my job here is to pass on the wisdom of my marvelous guests onto you all. Listen up. Welcome to our next episode, which is our big ERP integration talk. We're going to talk about ERP integrations, especially in the context of B2B buying and selling. You're watching part 1 on how ERP integration ties into business processes. There's also a more techie part 2. And I have today great guests from Unit 4, Smedjebacka, and from OpusCapita, Per Åberg. Welcome, both of you. And our Lego guests on the table there are to remind us that all this data and system talk is actually about helping people in their work. I would first like to hear from Mats. We're talking about ERP integration in broad. How would you describe that ties into business processes?
Yeah, I would say that it ties very much into business processes. But for example, if we go backwards 30 years, then we hardly did not have any integrations from the ERP systems. But then it evolved, and nowadays, of course, all the integration between ERP systems and other systems is there because it helps the business process to perform without so much human interactions, so that we can automate away a lot of the tasks that we had there earlier.
And what is the meaning of this automation? Why is it important?
Of course, it saves time, so that the people that you have on the table there can do more valuable work and don't need to do repetitive work tasks then in the system.
Yeah, exactly. These are very busy guys here, all of them. Per, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, maybe to what Mats said, I think that again what comes first, does the system come first or does the process come first? It's very much this chicken and egg, because I think everybody wants to tap into some standardized process because that best practice. Why not use what everybody else have developed over the years? And that could actually come very much with the choice of the ERP you're deciding to buy and implement.
And here you have to be careful, actually, because not all systems are designed to change the process within the system. Give that some serious thought. All right, maybe to go a couple of steps back, Mats, could you sort of describe or open up a little bit this, because ERP integration is such a broad topic. So probably we're going to want to say first internally how to integrate your ERP internally into processes, and then externally, which is where OpusCapita much comes into play. But do you want to explain us a little bit around that topic? What are your thoughts?
According to my view and understanding, the internal integration is then that we integrate towards Office applications. And then the external things, then the bits outside, let's say, your organization, where OpusCapita comes in. That's then, of course, the purchase to pay process, traditionally very, very strong, I would say, in supply chain businesses. While, for example, Unit 4 ourselves, we use OpusCapita when sending invoices and so forth.
Per, you're especially experienced in the external part. Do you want to expand to much?
Yeah, I think that at least what Mats said, that I think that the ERPs they're really strong in this internal integration. If it's tapping into what you said, this Office, or if it's CRMs or warehousing or any other type of financing tool, we can then creating the external ecosystem, because whatever is handled within the ERP comes from a supplier or from a customer, and then you need to manage that process, if it's the purchase to pay or the order to cash fulfillment process.
On top of that, consider what kind of integrations you're building. Do you use open networks and standards that are maintained for you, or numerous point-to-point connections that you separately manage? Because that's a lot of hustle.
They believe in a different communication god. There's so many communication gods out there. There's FTPs, there's SFTPs, and there are AS2s, there are blah blah blahs. And that's where I think that the challenge is to really meet all of those different requirements, and I think that's where we can create value add, because that's a niche in itself. Not working within the business process, but make sure that we can have partners tapping into the business process.
let's open up a little more. What do we actually mean by the business process? And because we're saying internally, externally, whatnot, but isn't it really that when we talk about like ordering, invoicing, whatnot, that actually the external and the internal are then linked?
Yeah, of course they are. If we say that we get in a sales order, and then we in some way we deliver from that sales order or ship it or whatever we call it, and so that's the internal process. But of course, when you go there and you go forward in that process chain, then you also always have the supplier or customer then that you are talking to.
I think that how they tap into each other is that we make the data available, hopefully in a structured way, so it's easy to start working with.
For example, an electronic purchase order enables the supplier to execute on the delivery, like checking if it's in stock, handling logistics, and finally invoice it.
So it's only making the data available to work within the ERP. So it's that interface we can work with.
Yeah, that sounds good. So there was this interesting thought that we had. What is your best practice recommendation, basically? Do you define the process first and then you set up your systems and your integration accordingly? Or do you kind of define your process according to integration? Because these are also two sort of things that are very related, right?
Yeah,
that's very much for you to answer.
Yeah, I would say that I would start from the process, but I think that first usually the organizations set up their let's say target process, and we have in the system also let's say a best practice process that it should go like this, and then we have the let's say natural integration points then according to that. But then many times when we then have the integrations, and they can be standard integration or tailored made integration as you said, but then after that it might be that we can then see that when we really have it working very smooth, and we might see also that the integration might require us to take a little bit a different way or different approach here. Then we might come back to that sometimes also the integration might then determine how the process should look like.
Right, so in the end the chicken and the egg were both kind of, they keep bouncing off of each other. All right, can we name some concrete examples from like OpusCapita Unit 4 integration on like how do these, for example, how do the technology choices affect then how you can grow your business in the future?
No, my first example is so first of all we have a lot of customers and they are very much on the purchase to pay. I think many of our Unit 4 customers are using, for example, incoming invoices directly into the system, and that's for sure one thing. Maybe I think the biggest example.
Another definitely growing part is using Peppo for both sending and receiving invoices. It's all about flexibility.
So that it's like that it should be very easy for the customers to select what they want to have then in the end of the day.
Exactly, because this guy here might want something else than this guy there and so forth. Pat, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I actually can add. We have had a very strong collaboration with Unit 4 Aggresso back like 10, 12 years back, where the whole state agency just demanded from more or less one day to the other that now it's obligatory to handle your invoices purely electronically. And then we actually implemented together, like within 18 months, we had 250 state agencies up and running on a joint solution. And that would never have happened if we wouldn't have had a really tight collaboration and the same vision also about the integration, which is also very, and we believed in the same communication god and format, which is actually key in order to success.
Right. So now I actually got curious. We're going to go a little more techie, but before we do that, I think we're going to take a break and name this the end of part 1, and there's going to be a part 2. In order not to miss it, make sure that you're subscribed to our newsletter and stay tuned for the next part.